What if everything your father taught you about hard work was completely wrong? Growing up, I watched my father Richard wake up at 4:30 every morning without fail. He'd be out the door by 5:15, thermos of black coffee in one hand, worn leatherwork gloves in the other. The construction business he'd built from nothing was his pride, his identity, his entire world. And he believed there was only one right way to succeed in life, the way he had done it. Sweat equity, he'd say, flexing his calloused hands at the dinner table. That's the only currency that matters in this world. You put in the hours, you get your hands dirty, you earn every single dollar through pure physical effort. That's what separates the men from the boys. My mother would give me sympathetic looks across the table, but she never contradicted him. She learned long ago that when Richard held a belief, it was carved in stone. He dropped out of high school at 16 to work construction, and by 35, he owned Bennett Construction Company with 40 employees and a reputation for getting jobs done on time. In his mind, his life story proved his philosophy was correct. But when he looked at me, all he saw was wasted potential wrapped in disappointment. I was 17, sitting at my desk working on calculus homework when he came into my room one evening. "Still got your nose in those books?" he asked, his tone making it clear this wasn't really a question. "You know what your problem is? You're too lazy to ever amount to anything. You sit here in your comfortable chair in your air-conditioned room thinking you're working. This isn't work. This is avoidance. Dad, I have a test tomorrow." "A test?" he scoffed. "You know what I had at your age? Responsibilities. Real ones. I was helping support my family, learning actual skills that mattered. You need to learn what real work means, getting your hands dirty and earning every dollar through honest labor. Not this." He gestured dismissively at my textbooks. This pretend productivity. My friends were all making college plans, taking SATs, visiting campuses. I'd scored in the 98th percentile on my practice tests. My math teacher, Mr. Hendricks, pulled me aside after class one day and said I had real potential for engineering. "You see problems differently than other students," he told me. "You look for elegant solutions, ways to make systems work better. That's the mark of a real engineer." I was excited. For the first time, I could see a path forward that felt right for me. When I told Richard about Mr. Hendricks' encouragement, he laughed, actually laughed. "Your teacher thinks you should be an engineer? Let me guess, he's never built anything real in his life, has he? Those who can't do, teach. And those who can't teach, Jim." "Dad, engineering is..." "I know what engineering is," he interrupted. "It's a fancy word for people who are too soft for real construction work. They sit in offices, draw pretty pictures, and the real men actually build what they dreamed of. I'm offering you something better, a chance to learn the business from the ground up, to actually create something with your own two hands." While my friends were touring universities, Richard expected me to join his construction crew the summer after graduation. He made it clear this wasn't a summer job. This was my future. Book learning is for lazy people who want to avoid real work. He'd insist, usually in front of his crew, to make sure I felt the full weight of his disappointment. "You spend 4 years partying at college. You come out with debt and a useless piece of paper. You spend 4 years learning construction with me. You come out with a skill set that'll feed you for life." I tried to explain that I wanted to study civil engineering, that I could actually help his business if I understood the technical side better. He wasn't interested in hearing it. In his worldview, there are two types of people: those who worked hard with their hands, and those who made excuses. When my acceptance letter from State University's engineering program arrived, I was thrilled. Full acceptance with a partial scholarship based on my math scores. I need to cover about $15,000 a year, doable with student loans and a part-time job. I showed Richard the letter at dinner, my hands actually shaking with excitement. He read it, set it down, and cut into his steak. "And how exactly do you plan to pay for this?" "I got a partial scholarship, and I can take out loans for the rest. Lots of students do it, and I can work part-time." "Work part-time," he repeated, shaking his head. "So you want to go into debt? Work some meaningless job for minimum wage. Also, you can sit in classrooms for 4 years. Do you have any idea how much debt you'll be in? How long it'll take to pay that off?" "Dad, engineers make good money. If they get jobs," he interrupted. "You know how many college graduates I see applying to work on my crews? Kids with degrees working for $15 an hour because their fancy education didn't prepare them for anything real. You think you're going to be different?" My mother spoke up quietly. "Richard, maybe we could help with some of the costs." "No," he said firmly. "I'm not throwing money away on this fantasy. I built this business without any degree. I learned by doing, by failing, by getting back up and working harder. That's what builds character. That's what creates success. Not sitting in some lecture hall, listening to professors who've never built anything real." He turned back to me. "I'm offering you a real opportunity here. You come work for me. I'll pay you $22 an hour to start. You learn the business, prove yourself, and in a few years, you could be running crews, making real money. By the time your friends friends are graduating with debt. You'll have money saved, real experience, and a future in a business that's already established. But Dad, I don't want to do construction. I want to be an engineer. You want to waste 4 years of your life and go into massive debt, he corrected. You want to take the easy path, avoid real work, and then come crying to me when reality hits. Well, I won't be here to bail you out. You make this choice, you're on your own. The ultimatum hung in the air. My mother looked down at her plate. I could feel my future splitting into two paths, and I knew Richard would never forgive me for choosing the one he didn't approve of. I took a breath and smiled. You're right, I said calmly. I should learn what real work means. His face lit up with satisfaction. Now you're talking sense. You start Monday. I'll put you with Miguel's crew. He's tough, but he's the best foreman I have. You'll learn more in 1 week with him than a year in some classroom. I didn't correct his assumption. I let him think I'd chosen his path. That night, I filled out my acceptance paperwork for the university, applied for maximum student loans, and started looking for part-time jobs near campus. When I told him 2 weeks later that I was going to college after all, he didn't yell. That would have been easier. Instead, he just looked at me with complete disgust. You lied to me. I didn't lie. I said I should learn what real work means. I'm going to just not the way you think. You're making the biggest mistake of your life, he said coldly. Don't come crawling back to me when you fail. You'll be back begging for a job when reality hits, but that door will be closed. You want to be lazy, you do it on your own dime. My mother slipped me $2,000 the day I moved into the dorms. Don't tell your father, she whispered, hugging me tight. I believe in you. It was the first time she'd ever openly defied him, and I knew it cost her. So I showed him what real work looked like. I took 18 credit hours per semester while working 25 hours a week at the campus bookstore. I studied construction efficiency, structural engineering, project management, and process optimization. What Richard accomplished through brute force in 60-hour weeks, I learned to achieve through smart system design and strategic planning. During summer breaks, while Richard expected me to come home defeated, I took internships at engineering firms. I learned how major projects were planned, how resources were allocated, how technology could transform construction timelines. I saw firsthand how poor communication and inefficient systems cost companies millions in delays and waste. My junior year, I took a class on construction management systems. The professor, Dr. Sarah Chun, had spent 20 years in the industry before teaching. She showed us how most construction companies still operated like it was 1985. Paper schedules, phone tag, manual inventory tracking, and constant miscommunication between contractors, suppliers, and clients. The industry is ripe for disruption, she said. The technology exists to solve these problems, but construction culture resists change. They say this is how we've always done it, like it's a badge of honor, instead of an admission of inefficiency. I thought about Richard, about his pride in doing things the hard way, about all the times I'd heard him complain about delayed material deliveries or subcontractors showing up on the wrong day. I thought about the evening phone calls, the constant firefighting, the stress that made him irritable and exhausted. For my senior project, I designed a construction management app that coordinated schedules, tracked materials in real time, and allowed instant communication between all parties on a project. Dr. Chun was impressed. This is actually viable, she said. You should develop this further. After graduation, I joined a firm implementing systems that reduced project timelines by 30% through better resource allocation and communication. I saw $1 million projects come in under budget and ahead of schedule, not through longer hours, but through smarter coordination. But I couldn't stop thinking about that app. I spent nights and weekends refining it, adding features, making it more intuitive. I used my own money to hire a developer to help build a working prototype. We called it Build Sync. I tested it on small contractors first, offering it free in exchange for feedback. The response was overwhelming. This saves me hours every day, one contractor told me. I used to spend half my morning making phone calls. Now everyone just checks the app. Then I developed a full construction management platform, adding features for inventory management, automated scheduling, budget tracking, and client communications. I quit my job and went all in on Build Sync, living off savings and ramen noodles in a tiny apartment. Within 6 months, 5,000 contractors were using it. Within a year, we had 20,000 users and I'd hired a team of 8. The app was generating revenue through subscription fees, and construction companies were reporting average efficiency gains of 25%. Industry publications started writing about us. Build Sync is doing for construction what email did for office communication. One article said, construction trade shows invited me to speak. I was 26 years old, and I created something that was genuinely changing how an entire industry operated. That's when the acquisition offers started coming in. 3 different software companies wanted to buy Build Sync. The bidding war drove the price up. The final offer came from Tech Build Solutions, a major construction software software company. $25 million for full acquisition, plus a 3-year consulting contract. I was 27 years old. The lazy son who was too soft for real work had created more value than decades of hard labor ever could. I'd done it not by working longer hours than my father, but by working smarter, by seeing the problems he complained about and building solutions instead of just accepting that this is how it's always been done. When the acquisition made local news, Local Engineers sells construction app for $25 million. Everything changed. Richard's clients started asking if he was related to the app founder. His foreman asked if he'd heard of Build Sync. One of his longtime competitors mentioned at a job site that they just started using that Bennett Kids app, and it was saving them a fortune in coordination costs. Richard called me on a Tuesday evening. I almost didn't answer. We'd barely spoken in 6 years. Just awkward conversations at Christmas when my mother insisted. But something made me pick up. Is it true? He asked without preamble. The news article about the app? Yes. Silence. Then $25 million? Yes. More silence. I could hear him breathing, could picture him in his home office, surrounded by project files and blueprints. Try to process this information. Why didn't you tell me? His voice was confused and hurt, almost childlike. All these years, you never said anything about what you were building. I felt anger rise in my chest, hot and sharp. You spent years calling me lazy, I replied, keeping my voice level. You told me I was wasting my life, that I'd come crawling back begging for a job. You made it clear you had no interest in what I was doing. So why would I tell you? I'm your father. You're the man who told me I was too lazy to ever amount to anything. I interrupted. You're the man who refused to help me go to college because you thought education was for people too soft for real work. I was working harder than you realized, just more efficiently. I was solving the exact problems you complained about every single day, but you were so convinced your way was the only way that you couldn't see it. I heard him take a shaky breath. I didn't know. You didn't want to know? I said. There's a difference. We talked for 2 hours that night. Really talked, maybe for the first time in my life. He told me about his father, who'd been even harder on him, who'd beaten the idea into him that anything other than physical labor was weakness. He told me about his fears that I'd end up soft, unprepared for a harsh world, unable to take care of myself. I thought I was protecting you, he said. I thought if I push you hard enough, you'd toughen up, learn to survive. What you taught me, I said, was that I had to prove myself without you, that I couldn't count on your support or approval. So I stopped trying to get it. I'm sorry, he said quietly. It was the first time I'd ever heard him apologize for anything. I was wrong about a lot of things. Over the following months, we rebuilt our relationship slowly. I showed him Build Sync, walked him through how it worked. He was resistant at first. Of course he was. My system works fine, he insisted, but I convinced him to try it on one project just to see. Within 2 weeks, he called me excited. We finished the Miller project 3 days early. 3 days. Do you know what that means for our reputation? For our bottom line. I used part of the acquisition money to modernize his company. New equipment, yes, but more importantly, new systems. I brought in consultants to train his team on Build Sync and other efficiency tools. I helped him restructure his project management approach. Watching his projects finish ahead of schedule for the first time, watching his stress levels drop, watching him leave work at reasonable hours instead of bringing home crisis after crisis. That was worth more than the money. One evening, we were at his house for dinner. He just finished telling my mother about a project that came in 15% under budget. He turned to me and said, I guess there are different kinds of work. I spent 30 years thinking the only way to succeed was to outwork everyone else, to put in more hours, more sweat. But you found a way to work smarter. You help thousands of people work smarter. That's something I couldn't have built, no matter how many hours I put in. You built something too, Dad, I said. You built a reputation, a business, a life. You just did it the hard way because that's all you knew. There's no shame in that. Maybe, he said, but there's no pride in refusing to learn better ways either. I'm proud of you. I should have said that 6 years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of what you built, and I'm sorry I couldn't see it sooner. My mother was crying happy tears. I felt something release in my chest that I've been holding tight for years. Richard still wakes up early. He still loves the work, loves seeing project come together. But now he finishes his days at 5:30 instead of 8. He has time for hobbies, for my mother, for the grandkids that came later. His business is more profitable than ever, not because he works longer hours, but because every hour is more productive. Sometimes I visit his job sites. He introduces me to his crews with genuine pride now. This is my son, he says. He's the one who built Build Sync. Smartest thing I ever did was let him prove me wrong. We laugh about it now, but we both know it cost us years we can't get back. Years of distance, of hurt, of missed opportunities to know each other. The price of his pride and my need to prove myself was high. But maybe that's its own lesson about work, that the hardest work isn't always physical. Sometimes it's the work of admitting you were wrong, of changing your mind, of seeing value in approaches different from your own. That kind of work requires a different kind of strength, one that has nothing to do with calloused hands or 60-hour weeks. Richard taught me about dedication and persistence, even if he did it in the most painful way possible. And eventually, I taught him that there are many paths to success, many definitions of hard work, many ways to build something meaningful. If you enjoyed this story, like and subscribe.